For your own protection, here are 5 things you should quit doing if you are an older person who is still having sexual encounters. Have you ever pondered whether or not certain behaviors you engage in while having sexual encounters are detrimental to your body as you get older? The fact of the matter is that maintaining sexual activity as you become older is a great indicator of your overall health. Not only physically but also emotionally and socially. It is evidence that you continue to yearn for connection, that you continue to feel passion, and that you continue to share yourself with another person. Intimacy, however, undergoes changes much like every other aspect of the aging process. You might be doing things that are quietly damaging your body, your confidence, or your relationship if you are not willing to grow along with it. Other things that you might be doing include: the purpose of this video is not to reprimand or humiliate older folks, but rather to protect what is most important: trust, comfort, and connection. In this video, we will discuss 5 things that older persons should refrain from doing during sexual activity. The prevalence of these behaviors is surprisingly high, despite the fact that they are rarely discussed. Furthermore, the instant you become conscious of them, you throw open the door to something that is superior, more relaxing, more satisfying, and more in sync with where you are at this moment in time. Because the objective is not to recreate what intimacy used to look like, but rather to rediscover what it can look like now, which is unburdened by strain, brimming with possibilities, and founded on the kind of wisdom that can only be gained through the passage of time. Stay with me to the very end because you might be shocked by what needs to be stopped and what begins to bloom once it is stopped. The time has come to get started. First and foremost, enduring discomfort or anguish despite opposition. Making an effort to push past discomfort is one of the most prevalent and silently detrimental mistakes that older adults make when they are engaging in sexual activity. The fact that you choose to ignore these symptoms does not demonstrate that you are strong. These symptoms include joint discomfort, muscle stiffness, dryness, and a plain lack of energy. The only effect it has is to delay the healing process, and it can also contribute to long-term physical stress that continues long after the closeness has ended. More subtle messages are sent forth by our bodies as we become older. It is possible that you will not experience a sudden pain. Instead, you may experience a dull aching in your hips, your lower back, or even your knees following the event. What is that apathetic ache? In addition to your age, your body is requesting that you pay attention to it. In addition, a significant number of people do not. They convince themselves that it hardly matters. They want to demonstrate to their partner that they are up for the challenge. And there are times when they are reluctant to acknowledge that things are not as simple as they were in the past. However, putting up with discomfort does not produce a deeper level of intimacy. Rather, it produces distance. It is possible that you will complete the deed. Nevertheless, what will remain is tension, animosity, and frequently avoidance. I recall a man named Richard who was 72 years old and had not disclosed to his partner the hip pain that he had whenever they engaged in sexual activity together. He was concerned that it would ruin the atmosphere. In spite of this, after months of bearing his anguish in secret, he started to dread the one thing that used to bring him happiness. After they had finished talking, they slowed down their pace. They acted in a different manner. They paused for a while, and he stated that for the first time in years, he did not feel that intimacy was something that needed to be endured, as if it were something to take pleasure in. Therefore, this is the point. At this point in life, pleasure is not about demonstrating anything to anyone around you. This is about being in the now. Having a positive body image and having the confidence to tell your spouse, "Let's slow down," or "This isn't working for me right now," are both essential components of a healthy relationship. Having such a level of honesty does not eliminate desire. It is what builds it. There is nothing more appealing than a person who is aware of themselves and respects their body to the extent that they are willing to speak up about it. Whenever you become aware of a discomfort, you should not dismiss it. Investigate it further. Ask yourself what could be of assistance. Is it more of a pre-game ritual? Is it a pillow that provides support? Would it be as simple as switching to a different time of day when your body is typically more robust? There is no requirement for you to cease being intimate. It is simply necessary for you to quit acting as if suffering is unimportant. Mostly due to the fact that when you pay attention to your body, you encourage your partner to do the same. That creates an environment in which both of you feel safe, seen, and connected, not only during sexual activity but also for a considerable amount of time afterward. In the second place, avoiding conversation due to feelings of embarrassment. The majority of the activities that take place in the bedroom for many older couples are not physical in nature. There is complete silence. Moreover, although it is simple to believe that after spending decades together, there is no longer any need to discuss sexual matters, this presumption is frequently the source of the difficulties that arise. Because if you are avoiding honest conversations out of fear, embarrassment, or habit, you may be inadvertently blocking the door to the kind of connection that you and your partner need the most right now. Allow me to be clear. It is not about having lengthy conversations that are embarrassing or about scrutinizing every single moment. It's about being able to express everyday things without feeling embarrassed or ashamed. Something along the lines of, "I'm not feeling my best today," or, "Would you mind if we try that a little slower?" Even more so, "I long for the way we used to embrace each other afterward." The following are not complaints. Invites are what they are. Not only do they get more significant with age, but they also become more significant. What used to make you feel wonderful might not do so anymore. In addition, something that was never important in the past could be very important now. When you are too embarrassed to speak up or too hesitant to ask your spouse how they are feeling. However, you begin to speculate about how they are feeling. First, you begin to avoid. After that, you begin to act. What was once a sanctuary of comfort gradually transforms into a source of strain or even dread as time goes on. In a conversation I had with a woman named Carol, who was 69 years old at the time, she mentioned that she hadn't informed her husband in years that sexual activity had begun to make her feel uneasy. "It's not painful, it's just an unpleasant experience." She feared that he might take it personally or experience feelings of rejection. However, he had also been experiencing feelings of uncertainty. Not a single word had been spoken by any of them. After eventually having a conversation, which was first a terrifying experience, they discovered that what they desired was not more sexual activity but rather more intimacy. More laughter, more leisurely touches, and more time spent without any expectations. Furthermore, once they granted each other permission to be truthful, things began to open again. It is not limited to the bedroom, it is present everywhere else. The power of communication can be seen in this. As a result, anything that was formerly heavy is now light. In other words, it clarifies something that was before unclear. And above all else, it conveys the message that I care about us to the extent that I actually am. Therefore, if you have been avoiding the conversation because you are ashamed, or if you have been waiting for your spouse to bring it up first, you should not do either of those things. Have a soft voice, words that honor who you both are now, rather than who you were 20 or 30 years ago, are the foundation of any closeness that develops between the two of you through conversation. I would appreciate it if you could use the second comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. In the third place, relying on antiquated methods that were used several decades ago, an older adult is likely to fall into one of the most common traps, which is the belief that something that worked for them when they were in their 30s or 40s should still function the same way today. The reality, however, is that attempting to reproduce the past down to the same rhythm, pattern, or positions frequently results in dissatisfaction rather than fulfillment instead of satisfaction. due to the fact that closeness is not a performance that can be reiterated. The experience is one that can be modified too. In addition, as we become older, we are more and more encouraged to let go of the script and discover something more original. A number of couples develop physical habits over the course of years, and in some cases even decades. These habits include a certain approach, a particular pace, and a particular way of beginning and ending that becomes familiar. These habits, however, have the potential to grow stale or, even worse, uncomfortable with time. One's body could react differently to the same thing. What was once exhilarating could now feel like it was done too quickly. It's possible that something that used to be enjoyable is now causing you to feel unpleasant or even emotionally detached. However, due to the fact that these patterns are well known, a great number of individuals continue to adhere to them out of habit, fear, or the conviction that this is the way that we have always done things. In addition, this might result in a state of silent tension in which neither party feels totally present, but neither party is aware of how to alter the situation. David and Ruth, a couple who were in their 70s at the time, shared with me that they had the impression that they were merely going through the motions when they were intimate. They did not respond when I asked them what had changed, and it is possible that this is the source of the issue. Over the course of several years, they had been following the same exact routine, under the impression that if they simply continued doing it, the old spark would come back. However, it had not. It was not because they did not care, rather, it was because they were not adapting to the person that they had become. That is, they engaged in a radical action. Their pace dropped down. When it came to intimacy, they stopped approaching it like a checklist. They tried out new variations of touch, different locations, and even different times of the day. And more than anything else, they let go of the notion that sexual encounters had to be the same as they had been in the past. The feeling that returned was not merely pleasure, rather, it was curiosity. This is what happens when you update your intimate style, not because you want to be trendy but because you want to be honest. When you do this, you make room for fresh discoveries. When you want to feel pleasure, you remind yourself that it is not about repetition but rather about concentration. It's possible that the things that your partner required 20 years ago are quite different from the things that they crave now. Also, the same is true for you. Take a moment to pause if you discover that you are repeating the same actions, the same beat, or the same story over and over again. Pose the question to yourself: does this continue to work for me? For us? If not, what could possibly make you feel better? The door can be opened to experiences that feel more alive, more respectful, and more real with even the smallest of adjustments, such as a slower pace, a shift in position, or additional time available for warming up. Because real intimacy at this age is not about demonstrating that you still have it, but rather about discovering what it actually is now and sharing that with someone who is prepared to develop with you. It is about discovering what it actually is. Fourth, the use of performance enhancers that are available without a prescription from a medical professional. It is tempting to look for a quick cure in this day and age, especially when intimacy does not feel as simple as it used to. Pills and powders that promise rapid vitality are available. The use of sexual performance enhancers without the supervision of a qualified medical professional is, nevertheless, one of the most discreetly harmful behaviors seen by older persons. Whether it's a well-known blue pill, a purportedly natural supplement purchased at a gas station, or a drink mix purchased online, the fact of the matter is that something that is beneficial in the short term may be detrimental to you in the long term. This is especially true if your heart, liver, or blood pressure are not taken into consideration. A lot of people are unaware of this fact. Over-the-counter performance products, for the most part, are not subject to the same regulations that are imposed on prescriptions. This indicates that you might not have a complete understanding of what is contained within. Some of them contain pharmaceutical chemicals that are not specified, stimulants that are not listed, or substances that interact dangerously with common prescriptions. particularly medications for raising blood pressure, nitrates, or diabetes medications, dizziness, substantial dips in blood pressure, and even cardiac events can be brought on by this combination, which can occur either during or after sexual activity can occur. Prescription medications, despite the fact that they are successful for a large number of people, are not universally applicable. Before advising anything that could potentially be harmful to you, your physician has to have a complete picture of your health, including your heart function, your drug lists, and your sexual history. If you skip that step in order to avoid experiencing humiliation or difficulty, you are putting your body in danger in ways that cannot always be undone. A man named Walter, who was 75 years old at the time, began taking a supplement that he discovered on the internet. Stamina, vigor, and improved self-confidence were all promised by it. At first, it appeared to be beneficial. Nevertheless, he began to have heart palpitations, followed by worry, and this led to a visit to the emergency room for a jump in his blood pressure. It was discovered that the natural substances were anything but natural, and that they were causing his cardiac medicine to become ineffective. A talk with his physician that lasted for 10 minutes could have prevented all of this from happening. Here is the most fundamental problem that arises when we use enhancement items without the direction of a medical professional. We are frequently avoiding a question that is far more essential. For what reason do I feel the urge to act in a particular manner? Which comes first, the connection or the expectation? What is the motivation behind it? Is it to satisfy a standard that no longer corresponds to where I am in life? There is nothing wrong with the desire to feel energetic and engaged in intimate relationships. Nonetheless, there is something dangerous about pursuing that objective through shortcuts that neglect the needs that your body is currently experiencing. If you believe that you require assistance, the first step is to have an honest talk with both your treating physician and your spouse. Inquire about what is secure. Inquire about the most important things, because the objective is not to go back to the person you were 20 years ago. Being able to completely enjoy who you are right now while remaining safe, honest, and maintaining your health is the goal. I would appreciate it if you could use the 4th comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. Expecting sexual encounters to always appear or feel the same is the 5th and last mistake. One of the most pervasive misconceptions regarding intimacy, particularly in later life, is that it ought to continue to appear in the same manner as it did several decades before. The exact same locations, rhythm, and climax may be found throughout. On the other hand, if you continue to cling to that picture and evaluate every experience in relation to a previous version of yourself, you might be missing out on the very joy that is still accessible to you at this very moment. The truth is as follows. As we become older, our bodies change, our minds change, and our feelings change. It is not a loss if the things you want at the age of 68 are completely different from the things you wanted when you were 38 years old. Well, that's growth. Intimacy at this point in one's life is not about accomplishing a certain objective. Increasing the depth of a connection is the goal. When you let go of rigid expectations, you make room for comfort, creativity, and curiosity in your life. But when you insist on maintaining the status quo, you frequently put both yourself and your spouse in a position where you will experience feelings of irritation, guilt, or disappointment. It is something that I hear from couples quite frequently. We're not doing it the way we used to. According to one of the partners, the other person stealthily reveals, I have the feeling that I am no longer sufficient. On the other hand, this is what they are both actually saying. We long for the sensation of being close, yet we are unsure how to get back to that place. And the answer is almost never found in continuing to do the same thing. Having an open mind to new experiences is the key to success. One time, I had the opportunity to speak with a couple who were in their early 80s and had entirely rethought what it meant for them to be intimate. They did not pay attention to the frequency of events, positions, or whether or not things always concluded in a particular manner. They chose to concentrate on presence instead. As far as they were concerned, it was the most pleasant experience they had ever had. It was not because it was more absurd, but rather because it was genuine. When you let go of your expectations, you are not settling for less. The subject at hand is growth. It's coming to terms with the fact that what's most powerful right now could not be the major conclusion. The gentle beginning, the lengthy chat that followed, and the quiet that was shared in the middle of the night could all be factors. The ability to say things like, "Let's try something new," or "Let's just hold each other," is something that is occasionally necessary. Sex at this point does not have to adhere to a predetermined script. All it needs to do is make you feel secure, connected, and authentic to who you are right now. And once you stop comparing it to the past, you might discover that the present is providing you with something that is much more significant than you had anticipated. For the reason that the beauty of closeness in later life is not that it remains the same, but rather that it develops alongside you as you become older. Lastly, some thoughts. As we come to the end of this film, I would want to present you with something that is uncomplicated. It is not about performance when it comes to intimacy at this point in life. Not only is it not about proving that nothing has changed, but it is also not about satisfying expectations from the past. Finding out what your body, your mind, and your relationship require at this moment is the key to success. Also, there are instances when this begins not with accomplishing more, but rather with putting an end to the things that are silently getting in the way. Whether it is putting up with discomfort, avoiding having honest talks, sticking to the same routines, depending on unsafe shortcuts, or holding your experience to outdated standards. There are many ways to do this. This kind of behavior does not safeguard your connection. They put restrictions on it. Once you let them go, there is a possibility that something unexpected will take place. It gets simpler, more peaceful, and more meaningful to be intimate. Which one of these 5 statements resonated with you the most? Did you recognize any of them in yourself? Or did you come up with some that you hadn't thought of before? You are not the only one. Also, you are not falling short. You are getting better. Because, just like every other aspect of our existence, our intimate relationships change throughout time. When we approach it with sincerity and transparency, it has a way of gifting us with more than we could have ever anticipated receiving in return. To tell you the truth, you are deserving of a connection that is tailored to your current state, not to your previous state. And those individuals who genuinely care about you and who wish to accompany you on that journey will be deeply appreciative of the fact that you had the courage to suggest that we try something different. Here's a different approach to this. Together, let's get this done. We appreciate you being here with us today. It would be wonderful if you could get in touch with us. Please leave a comment below and tell us about one item you discovered today and how you intend to put it to use in your life right now. We place a high value on your opinions, so please do not be reluctant to share them with us. Our inspiration and encouragement are greatly increased as a result of reading your remarks. I would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it to be informative and enjoyable. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we hope to see you in the future video.